Oumaji is one of the craziest tribes in the game. If you watched last week's broadcast of Hoodrick, I don't think there are two tribes more opposite in the game. Oumaji is all about playing quickly, very tactically, making sure that you're tracking your opponent through the fog as best you can. So we are going to bust out the score screens and track where our opponent's points are changing. But they're not really well suited towards the late game. You can make it work, but it's not something that's natural to them. Even Vengir, a very aggressive tribe, loves their forges into markets now. Research backwards into mining, not that they didn't before. But Oumaji, just you're going to be fighting the entire game. Like, very bitter games, very tactical games, very exciting to watch, very stressful to play. In the abstract, if you asked me like a few months ago, if I hadn't seen who'd been playing more, been more active recently, I might give it to Sunflower. Right now, I'm probably going to give it to Majak.
You're saying it's going to be a tense game either way. Sunflower, we haven't really seen Sunflower in these qualifiers, but obviously Majak has been somewhat bouncing around. So maybe the experience might come into it. We have actually seen it. I mean, you pointed out when we were a little bit off camera beforehand, that you can get these unexpected things because you get these upsets, right? Some people do have... I mean, Willabomb has failed at the final hurdle. Let me check my notes. I think he has failed at the final hurdle. Here we go. Lost 3 finals, a semi, 2 quarterfinals. So sometimes a player that can be so good just can't get over the line. And we've had some players that are able just to nick it right at the end. Big Data Bossman has been on the receiving end of those sorts of things in a similar way to Willabomb. So, like you say, can't really discount anyone. But just because you said Majak, I'm going to take Sunflower. Make it interesting. And we'll continue our weeks long bet at this point. So,
I mean, like, one of those payments gonna hit my account, by the way.
I have lost a lot of the bets. Look, I'm good for it. I'm good for it. It's fine. It's like, I can get the money.
Yeah.
It's not.
You better be.
It's not a problem. It's okay.
No, of course it's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see each other live in Stockholm when we cast the World Championship. So that'd be good. Maybe everyone should get tickets so we have like an audience, witnesses. That'd be good. So if you should get tickets. So we're all safe. Is the best way to I think go about that. Let's have a look at the other side of the bracket though. What do you think? I really think Big Dictator Bossman's gonna take it all the way.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, Big Dictator Bossman in a kind of similar position to Willabomb. Not so much popping up in the more recent tribe matches, but early on in the very first one of Keku, making it all the way to the grand finals. Like a very tough loss against Levon, but moving in, we see again in Yadak as well as Vengir. But now making a return, and in this very aggressive matchup. This is, a veteran seasoned player who's had the recent experience, whose playstyle is just gravitated towards this kind of stuff that Oumaji lends itself to. So I think a very strong contender here. And Cabanos, like, as well, just more recent addition. I say that just because Dictator Bossman has been here longer than I have in the community. So just a couple years is, more recent for Cabanos. But very veteran seasoned player as well. Loves Oumaji, to my knowledge. So it should be very interesting to see how they play, like how that goes out.
Absolutely. And obviously the other side is going to face one of Sunflower versus Majak. This is, of course, a best of 3. So we're going to be seeing at least 2 games from these players. A very fast start, so I'll hand over to you immediately. Take me through it.
Yeah, so both players really want to run out and find where their resources are. The problem is the riders are very soft, squishy units. It's very difficult. I mean, you're looking for consistency. It's a best of 3. You can't, gamble and just win every single time. But are seeing something interesting here with the Capital Explorer, which not only gets the stars and picks up vision on the opponent, but also grabs the faraway lighthouse. So that's another capital population. This is kind of as good a start as you can get. We saw a very conservative opening, running towards the lighthouse, going for the safer village, up to the northeast as opposed towards heading west.
Can't be conservative as Oumaji. I don't like it. It lacks the spirit. Against the spirit of the game.
Yeah, it lacks the free spirit that Oumaji is so known for. But
A lot less color on
the
this
thing
map,
is-
isn't there?
Yeah. But running through, like, this is going to be interesting. Like, this is a much more conventional opening. What you see, like, picking up the Explorer on the second city as opposed to the capital. Just because your capital is so far back into your own territory that it's kind of difficult for you get the greatest vision. But we have a very far back second city Explorer as well. But very interesting. Knows that you can capture the city. I'm going to have a little rider bounce and then bounce onto this village. Not to the village. Wants this 10 health rider down in the south to go pick that up. It looks like the idea here is that the 10 health rider is going to attack this 4 health rider and siege. Bounce forwards to that farm north of the village and let the 8 health rider go ahead and bounce on. SunflowerInDreamland was hoping that there wasn't vision to set up this kind of tactic for actually taking the city here, but it seems a little disappointing result that definitely able to.
I've been
now
looking
we just have
forward
to set
to the
up
Oumaji tribe for
climbing.
weeks, and this is exactly why. Like, it's turn 4, already seeing combat, already seeing them try and set up. They have to rush for each other. They have to set up to try and defend against each other's rushes. This is why I like Oumaji. This is why Oumaji shines. Yeah, keep going, please.
Well, this is the adrenaline kind of thing.
Yeah.
So tactically, if we go for the most aggressive play that I talked about with bouncing this rider forwards, which looks like is going to be played, we're going to force SunflowerInDreamland to pick up climbing. So an unsiege is possible here, but you need to get climbing to get that rider on the right tile. Now another explorer to pick up this East Lighthouse, and that's going to get the last population necessary with this fruit for level 3 on the capital, overcoming that population capacity problem. So 4th unit trained here on the capital, another rider. So climbing is going to be picked up, and that's going to be really set. That's not what you want to see early on. You just want to be upgrading all of your cities as much as you can. But keeping the city, and this rider is trapped right now.
Yeah.
Up north of the city. It's got 4 health. It can't really do much damage to any of Sunflower's own riders. So not too worried about that. I'm going to leave the potential for a siege on these Muha city, because otherwise you're allowing your opponent to bounce into your capital. That's a few more stars lost. So using those last 2 stars after climbing to pick up a warrior there. The warrior is kind of useful for the exploration, but not what you want to see. So we are getting some forcing plays here right away. It is pretty solid for Majak. You get the lion's share of this opening. Some good damage exchanges, a couple of sieges. I mean, only 1 star per turn. But the big thing is forcing your opponent to buy climbing while you have the 10 stars and can pick up farming or roads right here before capturing the city. And you're not really worried about the potential of them sieging you either. They don't have any roads, they don't have the riders in range. The problem is, in terms of where we get in the middle game with where all these cities are positioned, we are going to have 5 cities for Majak in the south and some good access to the water, but you might rather just have more cities initially. And we are going to see farming opted for instead of roads. And this is, just in general, what you're going to be seeing with Oumaji is pick up an explorer on capital or second city. Try not to rely on score counting. Try to know, with certainty where your opponent spawned. But then the big decision is whether you go for the more economic route of farming or if you go for roads. And farming just makes sense here because you do have the ability to start fighting your opponent more with roads, but what is Majak really going to take? This Muha city over is the only contested point, and it's very easy for that to become a bottleneck that your opponent just defends. Once the riders get set up in the back and you're not able to access them, it's very difficult to make progress trying to siege a city until you get, maybe a giant of your own setup.
These riders do make the map feel a lot smaller, just given the amount of ground that they can cover and how quickly. It does mean that things feel a little bit more compressed. So you always have to be thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the exploration, this is why they're so fast. They're going to be transitioning to these stages that other tribes aren't getting to until, like, 4 or 5 more turns from, like, where they are right now. And we're already getting towards the northeast edge of the map. Already solidifying control over, like, whose village is whose. Um, and, the early confrontations, of course, as well. But a great population ruin pickup there, so a giant on the capital is possible. Just 10 stars to pick up those 2 farms. We'll give a Park of Fortune as well. My only question is, do we delay capture of this village up here in order to pick up roads? Normally no, not in terms of, pure economics, but just in terms of, like, what makes more sense to do for getting that giant roaded. If you're able to buy roads and a road on the same turn, then go ahead and pick up the village or delay it. Whatever gets that giant towards that Muha city fastest. It is possible to do it with 2 roads as well on the next turn. Get it over at the same time, but then you have to start blocking your opponent's units in zone of control, and it gets suddenly much more complicated. So right now, we are looking at a little weakness of this city that Majak has. It's going to be basically as weak as Muha is because of how easy it is for riders, defended behind this warrior on the city with the defense bonus, a big, beefy shield up front. You can go ahead and tank all the hits while the riders in back are in range with just a single road. So opposite over here, Sunflower is going to go ahead and pick up roads, which makes sense because roads are going to be the way to explore this last bit of the map most quickly. The exploration has been a little stunted just by the fact that he needed to defend that city down the south. But now that he's done that, he can go ahead and pick up the rest of the map. He does have a larger share of the land, so it should be pretty nice for him, but he needs to start accelerating that development, and he's going to choose to do so with some roads. Feels a little dangerous. Yeah, can't keep. You can go ahead and use the fact that you've got the climbing and the mountain defense bonus. Put your warriors forward when you think that he doesn't have the chance to retaliate, but need to get another warrior just in case he's got roads and is going to go ahead bounce into that Muha city. Need to keep yourself safe. An open city is always a big target with Oumaji. So, we've got the giant really wants to get roaded in towards that Muha city, and as soon as it starts attacking it, causes a lot of problems for Sunflower. Problems that probably won't even be addressed with a Grand Bazaar, like a couple of monuments, not quite enough population to save this city. We're going to see the rider go ahead, dash in, dash out. Free Spirit Ruin would be nice normally, but not when you're dealing with a giant. It's something that we're going to see reserved for much later on in the game. The big concern right now is how we defend that giant, and what we're going to see most likely is we just need to pick up roads, defend all of these, connect all of these cities rather, pick up our Grand Bazaar, use the population from the roads to get our capital upgraded as well. And then with those 2 monuments, the Grand Bazaar and the Park Fortune, as well as another 3 population from fishing or farming on Muha, as well as the 2 monuments, you can go ahead and pick up a giant there to try to defend. But it doesn't seem like it'll make it in time, especially if Majak goes for roads right now and just sends that giant straight in. Additionally, we get some more problems because it's possible to kill that 5 health warrior and siege, as well as do a bit of blocking. So all depends on how they want to deal with this. I mean, the all important north tile is not able to be blocked, and with climbing, not too much of a concern about the actual siege here. But we are going to see roads. The giant will definitely go in. If we want to get more aggressive than that, with a siege on top of that, is all up to Majak. It seems like it makes a lot of sense to. Yep, it looks like we're going for that siege. I'm interested to see that the 10 health rider is the one to go for that. I imagine what we're going to... Yeah, because this 5 health rider has to die here. Because the warrior and rider are competing for the same tile there. If the mountain were not in the way, wouldn't have been the same story. But, no chance to block, lost the rider. The 5 health rider killed the 5 health warrior. You've seen that just retreat backwards, heal up wolf. But in any case, we're going to see the most aggressive version of this opening right now. From the player who started out so conservatively with the lighthouse and the farming plays. But, huge, very... Yeah, it's a huge problem now, too. How do you defend against this giant? You are not in time to even get your Grand Bazaar, let alone all the other population you might need. We have 10 stars here, so not quite enough to get an explorer over on the city either. If you could pick up an explorer on the city, if you had one more star to pick up an explorer on the city, proving the utility of that siege, you could have sent that 8 health rider up to the North Village, depending on what your explorer revealed, and then you're in town for like Grand Bazaar, other such stuff. But as stands, no Grand Bazaar. Park of Fortune still on the table.
As a siege,
but it's unlikely. Big giant siege. It seems like the city will be stolen.
Seems a little dangerous if you're Sunflower.
Oh, absolutely. I should point out that losing a city here is not the end of the game.
Yes.
Still have a solid position with many more roads set up.
Well, that's the fun thing about Oumaji. Their lack
side.
of economic development is that losing a single city isn't like, you know what I mean? It's not as devastating as it might be to some of the more economic ones, where losing a city is the beginning of the end. You know, oh, there's so many stars lost. With Oumaji, it's like, oh no. Anyway. Crack on.
Yeah, my level 2 city at 2 stars per turn.
No, please, goodbye.
I only have 50 more of those. But not something you want to see when you're trying to get your own Grand Bazaar set up.
Yeah.
Should explain the Grand Bazaar, a little monument you get upon connecting 5 cities to your capital. Or as soon as you capture 6 cities of your own and connect all of them up.
We're 9 tribes in, and that's the first time you've explained it.
It feels appropriate now.
No,
for
yeah,
Oumaji.
it's time. Yeah, it's time. I appreciate it.
The people need to know.
I like the difference. One guy at the back, he's just sitting there the entire time, think, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
And that ruin over on the edge of the map.
By
a little veteran swordsman.
Now, I think that could change the game. What do you think?
Feels like he's a little late, but he's always appreciated in these matchups. I mean, especially if you have roads to get him into the game a little more quickly.
He'll do his best.
And over in the east, you know, that city is looking a little, it's a little tough to defend over there with a few riders. You know, the other cities aren't going to be backing it up. You can grab a single giant there, maybe, with like a few monuments. You know, your own Grand Bazaar. But what are you going to do after that? And, you know, the veteran swordsman comes like 5 turns from now and starts sieging you. So definitely something to appreciate, but you might want some stars or something else more immediately. You got pressing concerns like their own giant. We are responding with our own giant on the capital, on Psych for Sunflower. So still not giving up this matchup. And there are some, you know, weak points to attack. Like we've pointed out, you know, how far away that village up in the northeast is. And a little overconfident, it seems, in the expansion up. Just because there's some riders up in the northeast, or just in the north corner.
I think you're underplaying my ability here. I don't know if I agree with you.
I feel like you're going to feel very safe and very secure about riders stepping on the ruin, and then it's going to end up dead.
I don't know.
But it all depends on how they play. It is going to be a little forcing with the roads on Sunflower's already constrained budget. And if we're looking in terms of economy, 24 stars per turn against 15, that's a lot. It is a little difficult to convert that advantage. One giant against one giant is pretty even, and you're going to have to move very far. And just like I was talking about, might appreciate a star ruin, gets the star ruin.
There you go.
With this 8 health rider on the mountain. So appreciating that climbing pickup from earlier.
I will say,
bot climbing for 6 stars.
Feels to me with how much is set up a sort of losing match can be turned around much easier than the others when you have this sort of like inexorable economic disparity versus a couple of good attacks here and there, and suddenly you're back on top.
Yeah, I mean, with how accelerated everything is, in terms of the movement around, these riders will be zooming. The Alaba rider right there, which normally wouldn't be, you wouldn't think of as threatening, that city over in the northeast. I mean, you just go ahead and place a bridge, and a rider trained there can reach straight away. Everything is in range and very close together. And if you were thinking about using a giant to just defend that northeast city, no good. Giant comes out first for SunflowerInDreamland. Should be, yeah, pressuring there. I feel like if you get to the point where the two giants are liquidated, and I'm already giving Majak a giant over on that city, maybe a little premature, perhaps. But I'm going to grant that it seems very likely he'll be able to pick up his own giant there. And as soon as he does, let's say the two giants do damage into each other pretty favorably, pretty evenly. Both giants end up down. What are we left with? This city is still very vulnerable, very difficult to defend for Majak. So it seems like Sunflower, I'm going to be giving him the city in my mind already. It's just a question of how long Majak can hold on to it for, in my opinion. But we'll have to see how that plays out, especially with Majak having more stars to deal with. Slides into a bit of a think right now. No doubt about how to defend that city. Again, the same thing. It is difficult to lose a city always, but you're not going to be saying it's the end of the world if you do. And here's the really good thing for Majak's position. If we start pushing into the late game, where everything's decided by who's got the bombers, who's controlling the lake, look who has access to more ports. Look who's got access to the big southern lake. Majak's in like complete control down there. It is a little difficult to actually start getting that, proving that you have that control. Once you have to put all of these stars into the water, and Oumaji's not really a tribe known for its economy. But Majak's in a position to go ahead and show that. We might be looking at 25 stars per turn on turn 13, and it seems like a pretty normal economy. But other tribes will have this kind of economy, and if it was Hoodrick, they would be exploding to 50 stars per turn with market setups within the next couple of turns.
That is the risk when you play Oumaji versus Hoodrick,
You gotta finish quick.
100%. If a match goes on beyond a certain point, it's curtains. So it is interesting to have the sort of this, in my opinion, this is basically the only time we're going to see a late game Oumaji. Like, realistically,
yeah,
when it's Oumaji versus Oumaji, that's it.
I think Oumaji will probably win the late game in this game. What do you think?
I don't know. I think Oumaji's going to win.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Said some wild things.
Hey, and I stand by them.
Yeah. I thought you were, you stand while you do your commentary?
Always. It's healthier.
Always.
It's Polytopia. I can't get more off the edge of my seat. I fell off. I had to stand up. It's simple.
Naturally. But right now, it looks like a little... I think I was right when I called it overconfidence over in the northeast about these riders here.
Bridge. Hello.
Yes, the bridge. Fan favorite bridge, I should say. Coming out, we should see both these riders up here getting killed. It seemed like it was possible to ignore the 5 health rider and instead use that bridge to bounce off the 10 health rider northeast of the city and just go ahead and pick up a siege over there, as well as picking off the rider in the northeast. But the play instead opted, or I should say Sunflower instead opted to go like this, and this should lock down capturing both ruin and village. In fact, it's going to be grabbing the... Not only have we killed 2 of the riders and only sacrificed our own 9 health rider in the exchange, is the most Majak can get, but we've grabbed the ruin sooner. So I think it was a bit of an overinvestment that's going to cost Majak here. And if that city gets lost, suddenly the economic advantage swings in favor of Sunflower. Doesn't have as great access into the water, but will have access to these 3 ports into that middle lake. Will that be enough to break through? There's this bottleneck on the Muha city over in the southwest. That seems like a natural point of attack. But it seems like it's inevitable that we're going to be getting into the water.
Which I don't like, to be honest. I think I'm
game.
ideologically opposed to it when it comes to Oumaji. I think they should fight on the land and nothing but the land. I think there should be a rule instituted that you shouldn't be allowed into the water as Oumaji.
No ports for Oumaji?
Yeah, I just don't think it's...
No Oumaji mirrors or just in general?
No, Oumaji, just Oumaji. That's it. Everyone else is allowed in.
You've got bold and controversial takes.
It's not controversial. I just think that you fight with riders. You should fight on the land. That's it.
This is why we developed bridges.
Exactly.
Anyways.
To cross the water with troops. It's very simple. Right, give me a percentage then. We haven't done that this game. Give me the percentage. Which one do you think?
It is a very tough-looking game. Both players have such great play. But I'm going to give the edge to Majak's control of the water.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Since unfortunately they are able to access the water and they don't have to duke it out on land.
Yeah, technically they don't have to abide by my non-binding restrictions on them. Some might say it's better to not do that. Here we go. There's supports.
But yeah, I'm seeing the better control of the water over on Majak's side as decisive in this game. It all depends on, some precise play around everything else on this map, how we're going to defend before we can pick up our advantage in the water. Because again, I'm not seeing a single raft from Majak so far. I'm not seeing, sailing, ramming picked up, and I'm seeing a lot of cities that make it cumbersome to acquire those techs as well. But I am seeing just that big port disparity, like 3 ports to I'm not even going to try to count.
Sunflower also now facing down a 2-to-1 giant disadvantage over in the west. Isn't gonna be fun.
Yeah.
There's the siege.
Yeah, and siege with the warrior. There's no point in blocking with your own rider. You could, force out climbing if we didn't already know that. Sorry, Majak doesn't have climbing. Sunflower's the only one of climbing.
Yeah, he was forced to take it early on.
Yeah. So, whoopsie on my part, but yeah, if the rider goes ahead and advances to that tile northeast of the city, these 2 riders aren't going to be enough. Aren't going to be able to reach the warrior and unsiege without picking up climbing. But the idea is still to unsiege with the giant push. But I feel like what we're going to see is that you don't want to make your own giant right next to theirs, and when they have enough units to finish you off. So I think these 2 riders are going to go ahead and unsiege here and save the giant push for another day. But very nice played from both sides over on the southwest. Directed our attention down there, where we saw a couple of giants get traded off. And this is how these plays sometimes work out, where you're just going to go ahead and use all of your backup units. Your riders are going to take some retaliation damage, but try to get as much on the giant as possible before they basically trade each other off. Like, both players lost a giant, and then we lost some health on the giant on this Muha city right now. Pretty nice siege, taking advantage of the open city. Siege. Like we said earlier, an open city is always a problem in these Oumaji matchups.
They'll just appear and just start pillaging.
Yeah, you can never feel too safe. But
I do think you're right though. Look at the poor access, and without any sort of contention from Sunflower, it's gonna be hard to see how he's gonna counter anything to do with the sea. It's just gonna take a couple of turns for him to get out there, get into the waters, and then do something. He can do what he likes on land, but at the end of the day, I think couple of bombers, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and I'm talking
that,
about
scouts,
you know, an economic advantage that Sunflower like theoretically has, but you know, it's theoretical in the sense like it's going to happen once we even up the city count and then start pushing for, you know, control of like X village here and actually get our cities upgraded. But that slow start, being forced into buying climbing early on, is I mean, it's difficult to play this out. And then, so we haven't realized the advantage over on Sunflower's side for a variety of reasons. And looking down over in the east, I mean, both players have 2 giants on the map right now, but going to change in the northeast, 1 giant to 1 giant there versus 2 giants against 1 over in the west. And if Majak picks up climbing, take advantage of the mountain defense bonuses, might be big. But proving me wrong immediately, Eye of God used to pick up another giant over in the north. And the economic change that I was talking about, as soon as this village over in the east is picked up, Sunflower, like, working on realizing that advantage you're talking about. So, very good turn for Sunflower.
Every time I think he's starting to let the momentum slip, he does always pull out something. As we start to approach this halfway mark, I should add that these games can go on for a maximum of 1 hour. We're around halfway through this one, at which point it goes to a judge decision, that being on the basis of who the judge thinks would have won, given if the game was allowed to go to its natural conclusion.
I think we've only seen that happen once so far in these qualifiers, no?
Yeah, I think it's only been once, you're right. And it was a very close one as well, that judge decision.
Yeah, Nailbiter, Willowbomb Justini. But, this one, I'm not imagining that the game has another half hour left in it.
No, I don't think so.
Never discount the possibility, though. Especially as things are progressing towards the water and it becomes a little more difficult to convert your attacks. Early on, Rider Roads are not only a very strong offensive strategy, it's a very, like, all the aggressive players love it for the fact that you're running around the map, picking up ruins, grabbing a bunch of goodies, conquering the map quickly. When you find your opponent, all of your units way in the back are able to a big fight up against them. But you're also getting some other things from it, like defense. The cities that you have over in the front, you have access. All of your other villages are in range to go ahead and defend. Usually, anyways, unless you have a city over in the northeast that maybe you never should have been able to grab in the first place, like Majak was able to do, running around the edge there. But when you see these elongated water battles, Navy against Navy, then you start seeing some things like the Riders being very useful in terms of defense. They don't appreciate needing to attack giants and defenders, but if you're only sieging with warriors, Riders in the back can go ahead and unsiege over and over, even if an opponent has great control. So we are going to need to see some more technologies from Majak if that is the path to victory and how the game is going to close out. But Sunflower, not to discount him, he's able to make some big pushes. Like right now, the economies are even in terms of income, 28 stars to 28 stars. But after we grab the 5 stars per turn from stealing that city up there in the northeast, Sunflower is just absolutely ahead. Not only that, we just saw a big giant swing last turn, completely taking out the giant over north of the city, while at the same time, we're going to lose this one, but we picked up another giant over in the west, while Majak's lost some health on his own giant. So, lose a couple of riders here, but we'll pick up some more kills. Should see some... We have the giant to defend our riders over in the west. We have some easy kills to pick up on the warrior, a couple of squishy riders up in the front. We could see something like taking advantage of that free spirit ruin that we saw earlier on. If the water isn't the way to go, taking advantage of, you know, big chains into the Muho City to increase the economic advantage. Another 5 stars per turn swing there. And then pushing that all the way into the capital even. Difficult to say, but Sunflower is certainly not out of it by any means. So, going to steal the city in the northeast, but we have to decide if we want any technologies before that. And if we are continuing with that plan of picking up knights or anything like that. Seems like a little bit of a long shot, but could be the play. We have to decide now. We already have fishing, so we are able to go ahead and put our own giant into the ports that Majak has so graciously set up for us, looks like. And start conquering the water a little bit before our opponent. And looks like the play is going to be for pushing into the water here. Trying to utilize these 3 ports that we have and turn it into a game victory. We are going to set up a port south of this level 5 city with the Park Fortune on it, as well as a road to get this giant into the port. And not the south port, but the southeast port. Wonder if he was worried about running into a juggernaut down there. By going to sacrifice our 1 health rider to bring our 2 health rider into the attack. We are a little overloaded. Our units have too many choices for what riders they want to attack. So we're going to have to bring every rider that we have into this. Pick up kill after kill after kill. We're looking at the kill count, despite being the player without that initiative advantage. Playing second, we are going to go ahead and pick up more kills than Majak has right now, swinging. Yeah. But just by 1 for right now. The giant is in a pretty solid place to defend. And the defender's going to keep our other units nice and safe behind the capital. Some good zone of control. We're going to lose our 1 health rider, but hopefully we're not losing too much else. Need a warrior up on that city. Otherwise, we're worried about the potential for rider bounce. It doesn't seem like it's possible to get multiple riders in to kill, but keeping it safe anyways with that warrior. The defenders are going to be very nice in establishing yourself on the water. But just comes down to who's going to be able to put more stars into the water, who has more ports, who has easier access to get their units in. And instead of going into the water, Majak's going to be the one to get knights first.
Really interesting, huh? We were convinced that there was going to be... he had control of the water, he was going to be fine. But here we go.
Yeah, different play. I'm interested to... Where is the knight being utilized? It looks like it only really makes sense over on the southwest edge of the map. But it seems like it's difficult to... I mean, it pressures. The big thing about the knight is the pressure it applies. That your opponent isn't able to clump up their units, and you're never too confident in your own ability to zone of control. At least not when you only have a minute on your clock. So when you see the knight, things get worrisome. I mean, if anything, I've seen the players go for opposite strategies of what I would have assumed. SunflowerInDreamland is confident in his ability to win on the water with only access to 3 ports. Whereas Majak, with access to so many more ports, not too interested in actually picking them up, going for the knight instead. It feels like with the defender zone of controlling in the front and then spacing out the units some in the back, that we should survive this night without too many problems. But you never want to see your own units take that, really. You don't want to see your own ability to position your units as easily as possible restricted. And the knight is going to do that. We're not going to see a defender on the capital and then a huge chain potential in the back right now. We got 30 stars. We did have our own free spirit ruin in the past. On 6 cities, I'm pretty sure we have exactly enough stars to go ahead and pick up our own knight on Yalaba, which would punish the kind of clumping together of units that we're seeing around Muha. We're not really worried about the knight reaching there either, but instead we're going to get some more riders. Not sure if knights are on the radar as something we want to do on the next turn, or if we're just going to continue advancing all of our stars into the water. But the water route doesn't seem likely either, as we see a rider over on that northeast city instead of defender, which you would assume would be the one you want to go into the port for the same cost. So, huge concrete issue with the knights and riders. Leif, I think Majak might have been listening to your suggestion about never going into the water.
You know, I think that's how he sees it being played, and it's a good idea. You know.
I'm a big fan of this. We were saying, like, it was a possibility for Sunflower just having free spirit from that ruin all those turns ago, but look at the detour into the water. The water is just slower. Are we able to, with this giant heading straight for the capital right now, and the pressure that we put on the back line of the knights, not able to clump up those riders, do we have enough damage on this giant here that we're able to take it out? And the other problem, like immediately after that, it seems that we did a little think, and now we've figured out how we want to get this knight chain. Will it end up with a siege on the capital? Seems likely. But once we deal with this one giant, look at the 33 health giant that's following immediately after. We're going to end with the knight sieging, and I think we're going to have a couple blocks towards the west potentially, or maybe we'll just retreat these riders. It doesn't seem like it's possible to get the siege right now. This is part of a larger attack that we might want to back up with some more health on our riders later on. But yeah, advancing the warrior into, yeah, the port is only there to get us onto land faster. Another knight. Very difficult. You're not able to actually train a unit on this central city. You're too worried about your opponent picking up rammers. But Sunflower would have to pick up sailing as well to access the deep water tile, and then ramming with the swordsman. So maybe you can go ahead. Like, yeah, you're gonna back yourself that he doesn't have the stars to go ahead and pick up all of those techs. You do see the riders back up. Another knight. The giant in the water is a little bit of a problem, but more concrete issues to deal with right now around the capital, with the two knights devastating into whatever you've got in the back line, whatever you're trying to develop.
It's been a while since you saw a good old-fashioned capital siege, isn't it? Usually
yeah,
the game's
just
over before we hit this point.
Mad rush.
But there we go, it's cleared. It should just be I mean, look at the amount of riders there are there.
Yeah, it's a very difficult defense, but with such little time from both players, and how complex, we're looking at like a siege plan over the course of like 3 or 4 turns.
Yeah.
This is something in correspondence formats where you have 24 hours on your clock. You are able to calculate to the end and see if the attack goes through or not. But with just 4 minutes on Sunflower's clock, that being the larger clock with more time on it too, it doesn't seem likely that we're going to get either player knowing for certain if this is going to hold or not. And all depends on, very small imprecisions or any inaccuracies from either player. Feels like this defender on Dork can go southeast a couple of tiles. Block out the knight from reaching around the west. But you're always going to be too worried to train anything other than a defender on that city. If the giant approaches you, then it's not going towards your capital, and you take that. So we're not too worried about the first giant anyways. This 40 health giant sieging immediately. It does go southeast, another defender. But you should have enough to unsiege this giant if it sieges on the next turn. The problem is if it gets space enough that the 33 health giant is able to siege. Or at least we feel reasonably confident that it can hold. But not sure if the players have done the calcs. Majak might be dipping into that time bank, making some calculations. Quick mental math. Try to figure out what we can do here. The problem with not going into the water is now you have a giant at your doorstep. And suddenly, if you're capital siege, that all or nothing that you went for is really an all or nothing. You're not going to be able to survive this if it doesn't go your way. So, the faraway knight advances in the range of this. Ooh, not the defender on the capital, but instead the veteran rider over in the east. Our goal is to get as much damage on this giant over there as possible. As we advance, we're banking on either this 40 health giant holding the siege, which very possible. Are there any monuments we haven't seen from Sunflower? Killer monuments been placed? The Eye of God up north? The Park of Fortune? Doesn't seem like we have the population for a giant push here. And if the blocks over in the east seems difficult for us to pick up enough damage, but still very within the realm of possibility.
It's not what you want to hear, though, as
edgy
a player, is
finish.
it? Within the realm of possibility
No.
is not exactly a construction.
There we go.
Okay. Yep.
So, with some burning, where is the remaining population? Is there a monument squirreled away somewhere? It doesn't seem like we've had the Grand Bazaar yet. This might have saved that away. If I'm not blind, it doesn't seem like we placed the Grand Bazaar, so there is a giant push here. And not just a giant push!
Here we go.
He's getting ready for the
go.
Houdini!
Here we go.
Big swing! Oh, wow. He's doing it slowly, though.
Wait,
He's
he
doing it
has to make
slowly.
sure, 'cause
He's got his time. He's been making his time the whole game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cruel. The defender into the knight. That's some cheeky damage. Oh no, if you're Majak, you don't feel good about what you're seeing right now.
He's just doing it one by one, super slow. Go and get the other giant in. Move the rider up. Okay.
The other giant might just head towards the water.
Yeah, you're right. Why not? Go straight in.
As soon as you make this swing that you've got two giants on your capital to their one,
Ta-da!
and you realize,
There
hey,
goes the
they're
giant.
really weak on the water.
Well done. What a fight this is from Sunflower. We wrote him off a little while ago.
No, keep the
And yet here we
capital
are, like 40 minutes in. And he's still scrapping, and not just scrapping. Winning that little fight very, very handily. And now it's 19 units. Majak's 10.
This is why I was so surprised to see that we're not picking up, you know, it feels like we have a safer way to win and, you know, pick up a big advantage by taking advantage of the fact that we have so many more ports than our opponent. Like, it was very close, what we saw around the capital. But, you know, it just didn't end up working out. And in a pretty devastating way, too, where we've lost so many turns of potential development in the water. You know, the population to pick up some more giants. We could have had a, you know, pretty long game with a pretty solid advantage. But no such luck. Instead, big swing. And now we're even losing on the water. Not that I'm going to write off my chances. Okay, wow. I mean, at that point.
Wow. Sunflower wins. Majak loses. In flagrant disregard for what we were saying about the sea access, everything else, he thought, no. What does Oumaji do? Doesn't go on water. And, well, that's the result. What are your thoughts on that game? Should he have gone into the water?
I think absolutely.
Yeah.
I think absolutely. If his two options were go for this all or nothing capital siege, which doesn't work, and going into the water to pick up advantage, I feel like the untested way that has potential to work still.
100%.
I don't know. It seems like more than potential too. But a big slip. I think Sunflower took advantage there just by playing more solidly. Generally,
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about like that push for the ruin up in the north as a little microcosm of what went wrong that whole game. Like pushed for more. Like we were in a good position, then we pushed for more than we needed, and it suddenly turned around.
I mean, you highlighted that as it was happening. I disagreed with you. I was wrong apparently, but I think that's fine. So tell me, beyond just going into the water, what else should have been done on my side of things to try and secure the win there? Because again, we did feel that he was sort of had the momentum with him, that he had the better spot.
Yeah, I think like even with the Knights, there was potential to grab a little bit more out of the position. Maybe if instead of what we saw there with how we went after that capital siege, we tried to play around the Houdini maybe.
Yeah.
Create a little like a little luft tile, just like one tile where we're going to be safe, where we're not going to be they're not going to be able to put a unit and actually Houdini us. Even if they get the giant push, we don't have that huge swing that we saw.
And that was all it took, like you said, like it was it's quite fun that the person who was attacking the capital was the one that retired,
Yeah. It was like a swinging brawling from the very start. I think like Majak was able to what I saw was you're always Oumaji, you're playing aggressively. But like there's shades to that. And the slightly more conservative opening, I'm gonna call it a conservative opening, running for the lighthouse in the safe village, but the capital explorer still happened in this, conservative opening. That's just Oumaji.
Yeah.
But picking up, really good damage trades early on, forcing out, an unwanted climbing, like slowing down the economy, picking up better exploration. It feels like that was all snowballing and pushing towards, winning on water. But when that didn't materialize, I don't know. I think it was really just a strategic thing there. Like we can look at
I'd be
some of the
so
tactics
curious to know why, like what was the sort of driving thought process behind it? Because obviously he had a strategy, he decided to go for the capital push, but not we have sort of seen time again, like going into the water first and maintaining control over the water is the way to go. Maybe he thought he was going to lose that city over in the east, and so there'd be no point to invest that many resources when he had what he felt like was an advantage on land. But we saw at the end they had roughly even numbers of kills, but the difference was in the unit count, 19 units to 10 there. So again, it went longer than we expected in terms of during the game and even before the game. Like we were expecting like an Oumaji, a quick Oumaji sort of scrap, not an absolute brawl that swung from one way to the next. But that's kind of the fun of the Oumaji tribe, is that you never really know what you're going to get in terms of length of time. All you know is it's going to be a scrap. That easily is more than we have some games that we had previous qualifiers. They didn't even get beyond 10 kills total. Kind of cagey affairs, and by the time someone has something to get those kills, the game is pretty much done. Not Oumaji with what was it, 24, 50 kills in total. A lot of dead Oumaji.
Just brawling, like brawling from turn 0, brawling the whole game. And I mean, it was a longer game. Like we weren't really worried about to go into tiebreakers though. No. And for a game like that where there's this big central lake, this is what we saw, like a game that Hoodrick versus Luxador in the face-offs going 5 hours last year, and here like not even 1 hour, not even worried about it. So the longer games are shorter too.
Well, it's been interesting that you say that about the last year there was a 5-hour game, right? And that's why there's the idea of like, okay, we need to have a time limit of 1 hour, and yet only one of them has been that long. So the games have sort of felt faster this year versus last year. Maybe it's the psychological response of to knowing that there is a time limit. You have to play a little faster. What do you think?
I mean, it was just an exceptional thing of luck. I mean, games can run long like that, but it's a little unusual. It's that long game is exceptional. We have seen games like that before, like Willabom has a different tournament, completely unrelated, played 8 hours in the first game of a best of 3, and then lost the series after conversion.
That's gotta hurt. You play 8 hours to lose. You know, that's a little bit rough. But I mean, look, this is the format that we're here, right? In terms of the best of three, we have a cap of 1 hour, so we will obviously see these guys play again. It's worth mentioning again, we weren't assuming when it came to Sunflower that he'd give Majak this much trouble, but hey, this is kind of the beauty of it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how Dreamlander played last year, right? Would you think that, because I mean, let's just call it what it is, there was a little bit of an upset when we're talking about that in terms of Dreamlander being the representative. Who out of the group that we have here do you think will play best with Oumaji's mechanics?
Ooh. So before we had these World Championships, we had different tournament where I think the Polyseums, where both Big Dictator Bossman and SunflowerInDreamland, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, either went to the finals against each other or both won in different iterations of the tournament. So I think one or the other of those two who are here right now, perhaps unsurprisingly, might be the best representatives. But here we go.
Yeah, exactly. We do have our second match now. Sunflower versus Majak. This could be the last one, depending on how it goes. Take me through the start.
Yeah, so we're seeing very interesting. I think this Capital Explorer idea from Majak is interesting, but I can't argue with results like picking up lighthouses 2 games in a row. I'm going to go ahead and see a pretty solid start from Sunflower. And yeah, the mountain is not what you want to see. That would have been an Explorer picked up, or a lighthouse picked up with that Explorer, had not been blocked off by that mountain. And you're also seeing that, wow, I have nowhere to expand down in the south. If you are SunflowerInDreamland, you're really hoping that Majak is over in the east, and that you still have chances to explore into the northeast. Oumaji is an expansionist tribe, but no such luck on expansion either. And what's worse about this central city taking the Explorer to the south that ended up not really going anywhere, now you've really, with the capital upgraded too, you've burned your opportunities to get vision on your opponent, which is crucial for, you know, deciding quickly what you're going to do in terms of like dealing with your opponent's rider pushes. But Sunflower does have a really solid start, a really solid core of these 4 villages lined up close together. But it's kind of a question of what do we do with this? How do we turn this into a game victory? And it's going to require, like, you're going to have to steal a city from Majak, really. I mean, Majak, for his part, doesn't really have the best setup for all of his own villages. He's got, you know, a kind of grid, really similar to Sunflower's, of these 4 villages. But able to access just through land that village down in the south, no climbing required. Feels like it might be faster to go ahead with fishing anyways. I feel like Majak's going to, I want to be playing for a longer game here. He was a little slower in grabbing his villages, so isn't as set up. If it's decided by, you know, swinging early on, favors Sunflower here, but could go to either player. It depends on who's more accurate, really. Depends on a lot. How are we going? It seems Majak's, yeah, a little apprehensive about grabbing that village, but we'll step on it with the rider. The apprehension, I'm going to say appreciated, but ultimately not necessary, as Sunflower just doesn't have any vision. You don't really know where your opponent's Explorer went, but you do see that he took an Explorer. Ooh, a little unfortunate in terms of where we're backing up with our own riders, too.
Well, here come the roads. Shocking development. No one saw that coming.
Yeah, the roads make a lot of sense. You know, if it's farming or versus roads, this is the aggressive one. So it seems like Sunflower has the strategic ideas on lock, but
I feel like if you see your opponent that close, pick up roads. Just take it to him.
Yeah, some problems with where these riders have been retreated to. It's going to be some early, easy damage for Majak and kind of bridging the gap that we have in terms of what both players are doing, like how they're going to be fighting. The warrior should take out the 5 health rider, and then we go ahead. We could bounce off the 10 health rider onto the ruin if we want to. We could completely kill the 10 health rider, bounce onto the ruin and village. Since we're blocking with our warrior down in the south, we're not worried about potential for our opponent to have roads just yet. But the sooner we pick up this village, the better for us. Right now we are at half the city count, which early on just means that we are not training as many units as our opponent, and we do not want to be population capped on our capital either. So a few questions to consider. We do want to pick up this ruin, if it's a veteran swordsman, or stars, or roads, anything like that. Could be a huge swing in our favor. But we want to do it safely as well. And right now, if we are going to capture this village, it's not safe to go ahead and take the ruin. So just pick up the easy damage. We'd grab another explorer. Yeah, we grab another explorer because we want to see what our opponent has going on. And also, we want to grab this lighthouse. I think it's a little bit of a greedy play, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And it's such an aggressive Oumaji opening. This game, I don't think really has potential to advance into the water. I should say that and then immediately regret it, because we also saw knights in the last game, so it is all player's choice. But I don't think that we're going to see, like, it doesn't make any sense to me that we would see our players going into the water here. A little bit poor after those 2 roads, but able to grab these other couple units.
Can you give me your percentages? Go on.
My percentages. Well, it depends on these ruins a little bit.
Oh, it always.
So the strategy ruin isn't great for this kind of start. If you're Majak, it's not the worst thing. I guess I can see potential for a defender being useful here, especially since we don't have our own roads yet. But we get a veteran swordsman over in the west, and you know that can turn into a very dangerous capital siege. I like that Majak has the population to go ahead and pick up a giant on his capital with just roads, no farming required. Whereas we're a little shy of that giant population for Sunflower. They both have edges, but it's so close that it really does depend on this ruin. Yeah, the defender is a nice pickup there. A zone of control these riders, and we don't have to worry about the fact that he's got roads. So huge overload right now. Riders to attack everywhere, but just not enough units to take care of all of them. We will be able to pick up 3 kills though. Depends on how we want to go after this. I think the South Rider goes ahead, attacks first, then the Warrior. The 5 health rider on the city can attack the 5 health rider up there. The Warrior kills the 1 health rider, and then we bounce off the Ruin Rider with the 8 health. Oh, but we're not going to kill with the 5 health Warrior. We're worried about our opponents picking up roads, I assume. Doesn't change how the rest of this should play out, though. Maybe we could, yeah, use the... Yeah, change it. Yeah, no. Doesn't change the rest of how that interaction plays out. We're going to pick up a lot of kills. And, I mean, looking at the kill count right away. 5 kills to 2. But in exchange, we're going to be able to pick up this ruin over in the northwest. Not too worried about the veteran swordsman, but though it is a huge swing in Majak's favor. He picks that up. Star Ruin instead, so we're never going to complain about stars. Fantastic. We probably go in for roads here. Yeah. And our next aim is... I'm interested to see the capital upgrade happens before picking up some more units. But go straight for the giant. Okay, no, we are going to grab all the units that we find necessary because we have the stars after this Park of Fortune is dropped. The Defender showing its utility, zone of control and keeping our villages safe. Don't have enough stars to get a rider on our city over in the southeast, but going to go ahead and pick up a warrior there with a road in range of both the capital and this lame city. Now, the defenders are putting in work right now. As soon as we get our giant headed towards our opponent, should be very solid. I think once Majak picks... I'm giving Majak the edge here after that star ruin. Since the ruins have been claimed, I can go ahead and give percentages. It's still tough, but I'm going to give it like 65% for Majak here. I think some people might say that I could...
Can I say,
give him
that was a really
more.
long time, a long-winded response. Just ask one simple question.
I mean, Polytopia is a complicated game.
I don't disagree, but I want to hear your gut instinct first, and then I want to hear the rest of it. Do you think it's going to last as long as the last game, do you think?
No, there's no chance.
I'd be shocked if it did.
Look at the giant. Look at them swinging blows with the riders. I mean, and Majak's got these defenders that you've been able to ignore them for so long, but once the defenders get right up next here, oh, a terrible explorer. Like, you don't want that at this point. And also, it didn't even get any useful vision. Didn't even get a lighthouse. If it got a lighthouse, maybe you would have wanted it. But now that you've got the defender right up next to your capital, the problem is he swings 2 riders in, and the defender will siege a warrior with a defense bonus. And suddenly, like, you've got a defender that you have to attack with your riders. Your riders do not appreciate attacking the defender, especially not doing it repeatedly over and over and over. We're gonna see farming from Majak here, pick up a few more giants. I'm not going to write Sunflower out by any means. Sunflower has potential to get his own giants here too. I mean, if he had that lighthouse, it's just a couple of roads to that west city. But right now it looks like we're gonna need to send that rider down by climbing, pick up the south lighthouse probably. Otherwise, it's construction. Not really attractive either. Over on Majak's side, we have to consider picking up farming at this point. Farming is an easy giant over on the south city. Should point out that there was a decision to be made earlier on about what city to put that Park of Fortune on. Both cities would have been upgraded and given 5 stars back, but we decided to do it on the south city instead of the west one. And that seems to be indicating that we're going into farming. Farming, pick up the giant over here. Got 6 stars, 12 stars per turn. Gonna pick up the stars first. We're not worried. We're not going to pick up a wall over there. And before, so the 2 options that we had there as well were 1, pick up the rider right now, and then a few more riders next turn. A giant coming out on turn 11, or we could go ahead and pick up a warrior now and a giant next turn, or even no unit right now. Warrior on the Gaha city might be more valuable, but instead we're going to delay that other giant and pick up more units, which is the much more solid play. So have to respect that. So Sunflower, not necessary to go ahead down for the south lighthouse because picks up the advantage in kills. Well, he's had the advantage in kills rather for a while now, but finally.
And the stars advantage as well. So don't forget that. Obviously, the siege is a big part of that, so we'll see that jump up soon. But those are stars that he has been denied.
Yeah. So picks up his own giant. Now with the Park of Fortune that he has from that, should be able to grab another giant over on lane with farming. Both players have farming, of course. The little income advantage as well. Seems pretty solid. I mean, that's what I'm going to give Sunflower compliments for right now, what I've seen in this gameplay. Of course, we haven't seen Sunflower pop up as much as some of the other players in these
Yeah,
qualifiers,
yeah.
but very solid player. Might not have given enough credit for the fact that we just haven't seen Sunflower. Where has Sunflower been with a play this solid? But maybe it was just a plan all along. We always want to qualify with Oumaji and no other tribe. Sorry, just the strength of this play right here. Like, you'd see Sunflower in other qualifiers had he been trying for it, I'm sure. Not sure what plans he had that kept him from it, other than just confidence in his own ability to command Oumaji like this. And with, such a difficult game last one, turning that into a win. Well-earned confidence, too, I'd argue. So it seems like the plan is not to go into construction and giant push with Park Fortune over here, but just to use the sheer number of riders to take out this giant. And that's something, if you're Majak, you're okay with. It's not something that you love to see by any means, but he's going to sacrifice. You're going to get. I mean, you're already getting your killer monument next turn, anyways. But you're going to deplete all of his resources that could have been going into construction. All these riders that could have been attacking your own riders and defenders and such. And you are going to be taking them out forever. They do not bounce away to heal. They are killed in retaliation damage.
Well, curiously, I think it's that exact mentality of these grabbing troops, attacking, bouncing back, that is starting to make, at least with these guys, the Oumaji tribe is slightly longer than we've seen it, because they're constantly whittling down each other. It's what we see with Oumaji, but usually you see someone take the lead in a more dramatic way than we've seen in these last 2 games. It's sort of been a back and forth.
Yeah.
Good fun.
I think it's been difficult for both players, but it's been that veteran rider set up in the east to direct the explorer down into the south, but just encounters a lake instead. If you're Majak, you like what you're seeing here because picking up these last 2 cities, or like the city over in the southwest, you're not worried about what Sunflower. Like, Sunflower has no response to you, and like not even potential to get in the water. Like, you control that one port spot with your riders, unless they start turning out rammers immediately. I guess the big thing is that we saw Majak get scared with his own giant. So we're gonna see a port here, but the port is likely just for the population until we can actually control that spot with like a unit on the mountain. Right now, a warrior on the mountain would be killed by the giant. Until we see something like that, though, I don't know if we're going to see this warrior hop into the port with all of the riders around. Seems like it's a little bit dangerous, and I feel like it was imprecise to move our giant back, even if we know. But no, I hold on. He just did a giant push. What am I talking about? He would have been Houdini'd if he tried to siege. He learned from the last game. I didn't, even after I saw it happen. But a very nice siege over here. I feel it's a little too aggressive. We've got enough riders to take all of these out, and Majak's finally going to get his own killer monument. As soon as the giant sieges, as if we're able to control that farm tile south of the city too, we've got enough population of the killer monument on Majak's side to get another giant there, and the income as well to pick up a giant on the southern city. Should say that city in the southwest of it, even. Got a ruin to grab. It could be an explorer with the one tile of fog over there, but I mean, basically cross our fingers and hope that it isn't, if we're Majak. Hope for some more stars. I think stars are better here than even construction. Construction isn't too great, and we want some things moving immediately for us. A snowball compound our advantage, and we get another star ruin. So I can't think of a more perfect ruin than that. A couple of roads will get both these riders into the east cities. A couple of roads will get the warrior onto the city over in the south. And I think with the star ruin, the giant down here was possible beforehand. But now with the star ruin, there's really no reason to do anything other than grab this giant here. We have to bank a few stars because while we control the farm tile down there, we need to actually keep our ability to... Maybe, I think it looks like the idea here is to threaten a Houdini, that you don't want to siege this city because you know at this point I have a killer monument, you don't see it anywhere. And he does, he is an empty threat. You're worried about the population. You can go ahead, click on the city, see the score, see that it only has 200 points and that it's not hosting any additional population. But you feel not confident enough to siege. You feel like there's a possibility that I siege and I get Houdini'd. And I think that I don't think Majak had the stars to actually do anything about that. But the threat did work. Whether or not it was real, may not know or certain, but denies the siege on the Skaha city, and by the time a siege does happen, or I should say would happen, we'll likely have the stars to actually siege. So right now, just a 1 health rider picking up some damage, or picking up some stars, and we're going to be able to like take out that giant without losing too much health on our own. So start some pressure over on our opponent. But Majak has a really nice defensive resource in just having a crazy economy of his own, ready to explode as soon as he picks up these remaining 3 villages. It's a Grand Bazaar, his own giant. He's got a couple more giants that he can grab. If he grabs construction, there's another one in that south city. So he's got the population. He's just separated by a few turns worth of income from actually grabbing these giants. I feel like it's not an easy defense by any means, but it seems like it's the most obviously possible defense I might have seen thus far. So grabs those villages over in the east, and with just a few more roads, you're going to be able to go ahead and connect all of these cities up for Grand Bazaar. Use that monument how you like, pick up a few giants. Some construction in the future seems possible too. We just have to bank some stars and pick it up before we grab all 3 of these villages on the next turn, likely.
I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to get to turn 14, having looked at the startup. No,
they've got the defensive resources too.
Yep.
The Oumaji games will still progress towards giants, or like they tend to get those anyways. As the tiebreakers, I mean, maybe on a tiny Oumaji is more your speed, but on a small map we've got these kind of things, these possibilities. This is a very nice capital siege too. We're not worried about it holding or anything, of course, but just for picking up the stars, we are worried. Ooh, that's devastating. So look at this. This is exactly what I was talking about with creating that lift square. We need that one tile that our opponent isn't going to be able to block off and kill us. But what we need is to connect enough cities to get our Grand Bazaar, which is just it's 2 roads in order to connect enough cities for Grand Bazaar. But we have the 2 monuments to push here. But we can clear our capital, and after that we need a bridge so that this 9 health rider south of our capital would be able to go ahead, kill and get to the tile west of this giant. But yeah, we're a little short on that, so we're going to have to get this double monument push for the giant. I feel like the warrior it moved southwest earlier. I feel if it followed the roads and just allowed the giant or the rider to capture in the southeast, if it just followed the roads and was in range to unsiege there, we could have saved this for another turn. But even with a bridge play to bounce off a rider into that tile west of the city, we don't have the ability to, or I should say easily, get another rider to that tile northwest. We could have bounced off the north of that giant, but then we're sacrificing so many of our own riders, giving our opponent more access to our capital with the bridge, and for a giant that did not have all too much health in the first place. So Houdini was possible, but opted to ignore that. And now we're gonna lose some health on our riders around the capital. Sunflower's been pushing, grinding this game.
It's been pushing the action the entire time.
Yeah, I'm going to say just give it a miserable start. With the resources, let's say inferior. The ruins, not having that access to the own lighthouse. But grinding this game out, always utilizing whatever tactics available to try to push this. There is a siege over on this Lake on City over in the east, as well as no, not quite enough damage after healing to siege the central city in the south, but it feels like it was possible to get a double siege down there. Not that it matters too much with the number of units they have to defend, both in the east and all around the map. It was like Majak's, doubling the city count of Sunflower here, in a pretty safe spot. Sees the one giant headed towards the city, but can giant push that away with construction. Shouldn't be too worried about how this game progresses, but it's up to Sunflower to make something happen here. It's always the difficult spot. Not fond of playing like that, but yeah, retreating everything back at the end here. I'm interested that we went after the siege on the city over in the southeast. Probably just because he doesn't see the units in the fog.
I just think he can. I think he wants to push the action. That's what he's gonna do.
Well, if just in terms of stars, like he could have sieged the central city instead, which would have been taken 5 stars instead of 2. I feel like he was hoping that he would actually hold that siege with the 5 health rider. But with those hopes quashed, I don't know how much hope Sunflower has of continuing to push this. Like, Ed pointed out a few times how he'd been in the lead in terms of kills, but that's flipped around. Absolutely. He's got half the city count. And hard to see where his advantage lies. I mean, the one port he has doesn't seem to be supporting any naval dreams. He's going to have to even start against the giant push from Sunflower later on. Or sorry, Majak's giant push. Yeah, already grabbing the population, like making it very apparent what the plan is in that central city. It is no, not even making it apparent what the plan is, just going ahead and grabbing the giant right away. Yeah, and Sunflower's going to resign at that point. Very solid.
Majak wins, is able to weather the storm of Sunflower, and we're going to game 3. What's your take on that game?
It was a really nice, well played game. Like, we finally got what you were looking for, and like, not progressing to the water.
Yeah.
We did see a port, we did see a raft, so you know,
I choose not to see that. That's what I'm saying.
But
I choose not to see
it was decided. All the action was on land, and we saw some, you know, beautiful like strategic developments, like how we're going to like, you know, push this. I was still more convinced by Sunflower's play in that game. Overall, like I think he had a more difficult position to work with, but I feel like he's shown like he's just been playing very solidly. I may be you know backing him to win the whole tournament, but you know right now the series tied like 1-1, so very capable of losing too, as we just saw. It's tough, it's difficult, but I think Majak played very well. Like he, as much as I'm like, you know, harping on about like, you know, difficult start for Sunflower. If we looked at the very beginning of the game, what was going on? Like, he only had 2 cities against Sunflower's four, which is, you know, a flip of what we saw at the very end of the game too. But he was able to, you know, take what he got, like, you know, the Shield's Ruin, which not your favorite thing.
Yeah.
Was able to utilize that, defend from the weaker position, and then just take what the map gave him in the late game and make the most of it.
No, absolutely. There are parallels with the first game, I think, there. I think it's going to be interesting going into game 3, because both of them have shown that they can weather a storm. Both of them show they can defend, and then, in this case as well, spin it around on their opponent and take the win. So, I don't know. And this is only the second game of the entire qualifiers with Oumaji. Again, this is something we thought, frankly, we thought 5-10 minutes a game. We didn't expect this sort of like, you know, attritional warfare, back and forth. Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, that's kind of what happens with Oumaji when 2 players are evenly matched, when 2 players can kind of have that little tango of the push and pull and no one gets a clear advantage. It does come down to you have to kill what's in front of you, you have to preserve as many units as possible, and it gets into this kind of like meat grinder kind of loop. It'll be interesting to see, obviously what happens in the third game, but also what happens on the other side of the semi-final, and see if it's a similar kind of style of game. I think that kind of thing does favor Big Dictator Bossman. Having now seen a win from both of them, who do you think is going to take game 3?
In between the 2 games, I was more convinced by Sunflower's gameplay. I think he was playing a little more solidly. And I have a feeling, you know, I've always been skeptical of that, you know, Capital Explorer that I was seeing. If I see Majak do it again, I maybe it's wrong to say, as, you know, a neutral and biased commentator, that I really want the Explorer to fail spectacular if it's coming from
just
the Capital.
Just so you can go, you know, I know better. I like it. I know, I like it. I like it. Some context as well, by the way, for the people at home. The players are not able to listen to our commentary. I did see 1 or 2 comments saying, wow, the commentators should be more vague about the game so then the players don't get an advantage, which would be very funny, because I would immediately attempt to, I wouldn't even cast, I would attempt to just mislead the players. But unfortunately for me and fortunately for them, they are on the stream's on a 20-minute delay. So if they do watch the stream, they'll be getting information that's 20 minutes out of date. Although he may have heard you say you want him to change up the that capital strat. Although I feel like anything could happen. So
you're changing your strategies for what the commentator says the day of the tournament.
Look, I think you should. I think they should. Why not? You know, why not? So out of...
You've practiced so much?
Huh? What was that?
They're like, you know, you're a player, you've been practicing, you've been grinding, you've got your strategies, you're dedicated to them. Then the commentator says something and like, where's your confidence? Where's your belief in yourself? I want Majak to do the Capital Explorer. I just want it to go badly for him.
So yeah, as a true unbiased... nice.
Not biased against the player, I'm biased against the strategy. But there we go, organization and the lighthouse into the Capital Explorer. Unfortunately, it looks like it's gonna go well again, so meets his opponent and it doesn't go for the lighthouse, but does meet his opponent, does get his rider into the game very quickly. Another 3 stars for another rider, so we can pick up that ruin a little more quickly.
I want to quickly correct something I said earlier. Sorry, just I said 20-minute delay. It's actually a 10-minute delay. So Still not enough to have an instant advantage, as we have seen the capital explorer once again. But hey, just so everyone's fully aware. What do you think of these starts then? Who do you think has the better start, if any?
So after the Capital Explorer and after it went spectacularly, I do like Majak's position here. It seems like he's got an easier time. Like, he's playing Lakes and Sunflower's playing Archipelago. But I'm a fan of how, wow, look at the way the map opens up for Sunflower. Yeah, and like he's going to need to, use a bridge or start putting down some ports, and he's already got fishing in on that side to actually access any of that. But wow, it's difficult without seeing like how the exploration is going to work on turn 4. But I'm a fan of Majak's side here. I like the way I think he's got
By the capital
a more convincing opening. The fishing, you don't like to see it, but if he can turn that into, I mean, we've seen fishing, work in the late game, but we haven't seen fishing in either of these games so far played. So, I might be right on the no fishing for Oumaji. Whoa!
Very okay with no fishing.
So,
very okay with no fishing.
He took a pause there to decide on his strategy. Okay, the population ruin is fantastic. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with Sunflower right here, especially how he's been playing like a very solid game so far. With all of these villages, I feel like pushing into a game with naval access in the late game. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with Sunflower. But Majak took a big pause, figuring out what the play was here. And I was assuming that we would see fishing, perhaps. Maybe roads, but farming instead. The reason I was looking at fishing or roads is, I mean, one, the large lake in the middle of the map is kind of making that a little mandatory to play for, as well as it just gets you your level 2 upgrade over on your 3rd city there. But instead, farming does a lot of the same things, but it's not helping him out with his exploration. And I think in the early game especially, I'm looking at what Sunflower's cooking over there. The exploration is going to be paramount. But we'll see how this farming play works out. Should be pretty... I mean, a population ruin of his own to counter Sunflower's. And we've got a giant on the capital. Use some monuments, fishing ports, whatever else. Get another giant over on that north city. Drop that in the water. Have a more developed economy. Make an easier time picking up your cities. The big advantage in picking up farming too, is that just as a tier 2 tech, the cost scale is at a higher exponential rate than against the tier 1 techs like fishing. So better to pick that up early on if you can. I think the question is still if you can, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from both players. And we're gonna go ahead and see a workshop here. I'm assuming workshop anyways. We're delaying that upgrade. What are we doing here? An explorer instead. Okay. The explorer is pretty solid. I have to give him that because whoa! I was expecting the workshop just for the fact that we need some stars. We're a little broke right now. But pick up vision on your opponent and so many villages to grab. I was expecting a rider instead of an explorer so that you can team up through the fog, pick up these villages, but the explorer is going to get rid of that fog anyways. Our rider in the west can step straight on that village. We want a couple more riders to grab these other villages too. Like roads possible in the near future. I guess we have to budget for picking up roads before this city capture over in the east. We've got enough stars. We can pick up roads, no problem with our income. I'm wondering what the decision is here. We have to budget for how many units we can drop in the water, is my best guess. We could grab a warrior and then a warrior on that South Mudor city, a rider on the West city, if we're not worried about our capital getting bounced into. And then we can pick up a road next capture. But no units. Instead, gonna go ahead and just pass the turn. Majak, for his part, picks up a very nice star ruin and straight into construction. Yeah, he's looking at getting not just one giant. He wants like all of the giants on the planet. That's a insane explorer. It does end up working out for him, picking up the Southern Lighthouse, as well as some vision on directing this realm. But no fishing. You just run into a couple of mountain tiles, and it doesn't work out so well for you. But seems to know this map better. Able to go ahead, pick up another lighthouse with a risky explorer. I don't know how he's doing this, but he's making me look foolish in front of many people right now. Every time I question his explorers and they work out, and as a commentator, I think that's the most important part of the game, is that I don't look foolish. But Majak, just very inspired play here. I gotta admit, I'm a fan of every time I'm surprised in Polytopia. There's just something nice about it.
And you were just saying you wanted his strategies to fail earlier, so he's really won you over.
Yes! I mean, if it just keeps working, like, you can't be a hater forever, Or you can, but then it's, you're bitter and sad. So, what does Sunflower's play here? He can go for a port on this new city, and explore, hope to get a lighthouse, grab that last fish for a giant on the capital. It looks like he's going for exactly that. No roads pickup pre-capture, as I was anticipating. Much more solid in terms of developing his economy. It does not need to go for, risky ventures in picking up his technologies. He's already got fishing to grab these cities. Feels like, yeah, these cities feel pretty safe. At least 3 of the remaining 5 villages to be captured.
Yeah.
The one in the south feels solidly in Majak's control, and then it feels like they will contest each other for control of that last one. And really solid Park Fortune placement, since we are not going to see a port placed there anyways. The east tile is also vulnerable to riders. He doesn't even have to buy climbing in order to access that. But we might see some Juggernaut splash damage from that tile in the future. So keep your options open. You only need to remove one of the tiles. So although it's unlikely we see either of those tiles supporting ports immediately in the future, it feels like the southeast tile was least likely of all. So right now, what do you want to do, Majak? I think you are in a tough spot. Your expansion is not to par. And even though you had that star ruin, the early farming stuff, you've cut off your expansion a bit for your economy. Your opponent is the one who's picking up the giant before you. You can respond with more giants though, but you're going to get them into the water more slowly than your opponent. Tough. So dipping into that time bank. Majak's definitely been the player spending more time on the think sessions. Sunflower just been banking time for the most part throughout the series.
He got up to like 5 minutes last game.
Yeah, but with 40 seconds left, we're going to see the first giant come up in what seems to be the most natural way possible. The other thing I should point out is we haven't seen construction Oumaji yet, but just as a tribe that starts with riders immediately, they're a little bit similar to Yanak in their proximity to markets and trade. So even though the windmill spots generally don't lend themselves with Oumaji resources, as well as we might have seen for like Kudrik with the sawmill and market spots, Market's a very deadly idea. Very potent. So, running around the map, picking up those last couple villages with these riders. No roads necessary. All of these villages are safely in Sunflower's control, especially after Majak played a little more conservative, slow expansion in the opening.
Majak's going to need to push a little bit here, I think. I just want to see a bit more from him.
It feels like we're seeing an emulation, let's say, of some of the swings we saw in those 100 games from last week.
Yeah.
Like, if he's getting construction spots set up everywhere, and then might head in for some markets as well. I don't think his market spots are all that great, though. It's difficult to see them turning into a great path to victory. Although we do know what the strategy looks like. We've seen it before where a player will set up their markets, use their high-tier technologies to grab a bunch of giants, and then with those juggernauts, open a path for themselves in the water. If it works remains to be seen. So 27 stars at the start of this turn.
What does he do them?
Feels like we can do some forest burning to go ahead and grab some more giants. Maybe on this north city first, and then start to working on the ports. Yeah. Burn, and there we go. And this is going to be, yes, a windmill and not another. Yeah, the problem with this is that that overlapping spot where you would place the market is also where you want to place the farm instead. Upgrade both these windmills. We've got pretty disconnected windmills, but potential for markets is still there. I mean, roads are... I'll call them a must. But Sunflower doesn't seem to really mind with the archipelago Oumaji strat that he started out with. Seems to really enjoy the fact that he can connect all these cities to his capital so cheaply and without roads. And exploring around the map so quickly, able to pick up Eye of God with this last explorer. Yeah, advancing his Juggernaut. He's got a monument that he can drop anywhere he wants, really.
It's crazy we have 0 kills. Obviously, it's the map, right? But compared to the previous games, right? Where the map sort of forced conflict. By turn 9, we're up to a 10 kill each. Killer monuments there to be used if they want it. And now, turn 9, 0 kills.
I mean, it's ridiculous, but Oumaji's a versatile tribe. They have a preferred playstyle for sure, but they can make anything work, especially in the hands of a skilled and very solid player like Sunflower. Majak as well, with this construction opening. We're seeing things that we just haven't seen. Like getting fresh games every time. And how the players react to the map. Majak's going to go ahead and pick up a 5th city, slightly evening out that city count, but only temporarily, as Sunflower picks up another couple on the next turn, or in the next turns. We're going to see an explorer here. We don't have the North Lighthouse, so it seems difficult for us to ever pick up all of the pick up the Eye of God. So what's the utility in that North Lighthouse? Maybe just wanting vision on the map generally, but with a little dilly-dallying, it's a little worrying. Yeah, it does not pick up the West Lighthouse either. Population would have been appreciated on the capital, but no such luck. So, I think we're looking at potential for roads, border growth on that Oumaji city in the southeast. You get some market spots. You get the level 4 market on the city of the ports. You get the level 4 market on the capital, and then a level 7 market in that border growth tile. And we're looking at next for 15 stars per turn from those 3 markets alone. So the markets are very solid. That's most of his Majak's income right now, put in those markets. But question is it enough? Commanding lead on control of the water from Sunflower, as well as picking up 2 more cities on the next turn, and then likely that city had ruled as contested earlier, favoring Sunflower. once we see this giant here, he just picks up some roads. Roads expensive on 6 cities, but we just need to see some roads, and then got some difficulties for Majak trying to take that city ever. Majak with his own roads, but unfortunately he's a couple stars short of a nice tactic that would have picked up that village for him over in the southwest. Not that you want to spend all of your stars on grabbing a village when you see your opponent's giant right next to it. So still as difficult as ever. But interesting anyways. Last 3 stars on that road. Does he just attack the warrior and bounce back? Yeah, seems like the idea here is just to prevent the warrior from stepping on the village. But I'm not sure if the warrior was ever really a threat that requires your road like that. He steps on the village, you kick him off. The only thing worrying is the giant. The unfortunate veteran swordsman pick up there now.
Look at that,
so,
combat. Here we
on
go.
On turn 11. Ooh, they're tussling now.
Technically, you know, there's a little bit before that, but hey, we might actually see a kill, who knows?
Yeah, we might see a kill before resignation in the game of Polytopia. Ridiculous.
I like the idea here that, but by the way, that has happened in qualification. We have seen that before. It was one of the earlier ones. I can't remember exactly which one. But I like that we've been talking up them brawling and scrapping, and it's been this attritional warfare thing. And then the game 3 turns up. It is like they can hear us. They're trying to spite us. I won't have it.
It's very polite, you know. They're at tea time right now. Just you know, sharing stories and stuff. But I mean, the big arc is yeah, we've noticed for a while perhaps that Sunflower's got the better control of the water. We see, you know, 2 juggernauts against 2 juggernauts, but Majak was able to, you know, utilize the juggernauts pretty well and force the one juggernaut out of the water to defend the city, Munosi. And that's pretty solid already on its own. You know, we're gonna run up here and just pick up some splash damage there. But like we were talking about before, the potential of Sunflower dropping a port over on that city and picking up some splash damage normally doesn't make any sense to, you know, go for a play like that. But in a case like this, where your opponent, like Majak doesn't really have the opportunities to respond, and you just, yeah, re-enter the water. And this is why we put the Park of Fortune down on the southeast tile and not the east tile all those turns ago. It's all important. But what do we grab next? We want to connect these cities in the west, but it doesn't look like we want to connect them so desperately that we're willing to shell out however many stars roads is at this point. We're just going to upgrade with the fruit instead and get it nice and economic, level 3, and never past that. Big juggernaut push down in the south. It feels like the roads would be useful for picking up the village down there, but no roads necessary. We are working on our water-only gameplay.
Yeah,
well,
it's the antithesis
I mean, like I said,
of what I think Oumaji stands for, but hey, we've got a kill now.
I was making a little joke. It was supposed to be a joke anyways, at the start of this game, that SunflowerInDreamland was given the archipelago spawn. But he seems more than happy to just play it out as if it's an archipelago game. Yep. Roads unnecessary, port connections only.
Sea is the only thing that
all
matters.
Of your stars invested in the water. Yeah, I feel like so Majak has roads here. He's got you know, the ability to, you know, set up some nice markets, but he doesn't really have the stars to pick up trade, and he has some serious tactical problems. What he wants to do really desperately is, yeah, pick up sailing and pick up some damage on these scouts, use his juggernaut, and just look at the damage. It feels great right now, but he's being pulled away. It feels like it's also a little bit of a distraction. Like, what's the overall game plan here? We take some damage here, and it's solid. We've got a better position in the water. But we're never turning that slightly better position in the water into stealing a city from our opponent, say. And then we're also losing down in the south. We don't have enough cities for a Grand Bazaar. We don't have enough kills for a killer monument. We've already used our Park Fortune. So it doesn't seem like there's giant push here. We can connect with roads to the capital, get 5 population with the fruits farm and windmill. But that's 6 population total, but like a port too. 7 population, so we're still ridiculously 2 population short of grabbing a giant down there. And yeah, this was interesting to me as well, that we saw the scout upgrade and went after the low health scout instead of the unupgraded raft, which became a very big problem as soon as it became a rammer slamming into our juggernaut. And this is the problem with that sailing play too. I mean, things would have been worse if you don't grab sailing,
100%.
so I don't blame him for picking it up. But I'm not seeing how this transitions into winning the game for him, basically. He's delayed what would have been, I think, his strongest play is accepting like his weakness on the water, shoring up a little bit and hoping that he can make some play with markets. I don't think it's strong enough to win myself, but you have to back yourself with the strongest thing you have and hope that your opponent will make some mistakes.
I'll just sit and wait for the judge.
Yeah. But I heard some, good advice that, sometimes you don't make the best play, you make a risky play that has the best chance of helping you out, just for the fact that there's no point in, like, losing a close game.
100%.
Like, it was a close
100%.
game, but, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to compare, I mean, look, apples and oranges here, but in terms of chess, the #1 chess player in the world, Magnus Carlsen, says that what he does is he deliberately makes mistakes in his opening so people can't memorize the opening. So sometimes, like you say, not doing the best thing that they expect you to is a viable strategy to try and force a little bit of chaos, especially if you kind of game it out ahead of time and realize there's no hope of victory if you do the rational thing. So the irrational becomes rational, but that's a lot, there's a lot easier said than done, because ultimately, hey, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna do something irrational, I'm gonna disband all my units. Yeah, that's not gonna do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be backing yourself to basically be the stronger player. I mean, I think the part of the reason that works for Magnus and not everyone is that he trusts himself in those unfamiliar positions to just be stronger than anyone he's going to be playing. But here, are you going to trust yourself to be more solid than Sunflower? I mean, that's what you're aiming to prove in this kind of position. But we're going to see the border growth here. Big question. Please. I got my fingers crossed.
Here we go. There you go.
There we go. Yeah. So, I'm going to point out Majak is ahead in kills right now. Losing the South cities is going to be difficult. Going to be down less than half the city count of his opponent after this village capture in the southwest. 10 cities against 4. Sunflower with a commanding control of the water as well. Feels like Majak's chances in this Oumaji tournament, as well as tribe qualifiers in general, is slipping away. And as these weeks progress and we get closer and closer, only Barter and Imperius left. 2 tribes that should be very competitive, coming first and second in last year's Worlds. Should be very difficult. Should see some nice intense competition, like players not as willing perhaps to give up like any chance that they have. So what is Majak does still have play here for late game with picking up, these markets. Already has roads, making these 21 stars. A very nice splash from the Juggernaut there. Basically, like, fending off the hordes at the gate, yeah? Keeping himself safe from the water. Picking up the first killer monument as well, after that huge splash. Get some stars over in the south. And how much does a trade actually cost here? 16 stars to get trade, and then 15 stars for the 3 markets that he has available to him right away. So that's 31 stars invested for 15 stars per turn back. It's a fairly solid ratio, the same as that workshop. Or, sorry, it's twice as good as getting a workshop. It's just that it has that greater upfront cost. What's ridiculous here is that the player without roads is the one who has their Grand Bazaar first. Sunflower using to pick up that Central City Giant mood ore. So Sunflower, 38 stars per turn. Not really interested in picking up any more techs. Says, I have ramming, I have sailing. Monuments to get these giants. But if Sunflower is unable to transform this push in the water right now into stealing a city and snowballing into perhaps full game victory, that's where Majak can turn the table a little bit, because if we look at what an extra 15 stars per turn does for Majak, it's actually crazy. Not even enough to bridge the income gap. Trying to make some things positive for Majak's position, but even with fully developed markets, well, still a play for Majak to bridge that income gap and play for the fact that I have less than half as many cities. I can go ahead and pick up technologies that you will never be able to dream of even. It's ridiculous because he's in Dreamland too.
Oh no, don't. That's not with the puns. We're gonna have to see him in the final as well. That's the plan. We're gonna continue with this. It does feel like the net is slowly sort of tying it in. But one thing that I am sort of seeing from Sunflower's gameplay, that I think he might struggle against a player like Cabanos or a player like Big Dictator Bossman. Again, not to suggest that this game is 100% won or anything else like that, but looking at the future, 10 cities of 4, it's kind of tricky to surmount. But he does sort of lack that deciding sort of, how do you call it? Like, finishing move. He's a bit too meticulous in this one. He kind of has to be. But then in previous ones, there we go. That's a nice. Immediately proved me wrong, actually. Andy, there you go. Fair enough. I'll stay quiet from now on. Yeah. All right. Well, there's my question answered. I was concerned that his previous foray about like getting stalled out and losing the match in the last game might have made him a little bit hesitant. But no, he goes straight in. Fair enough to him.
Yeah, I feel like it was really even a lack of opportunity in the last few games. I feel like he's shown his tactical abilities with some of the Houdinis he's pulled off, some of the ways he's managed his own sieges, but he just never had. I think he just didn't have the chance really to go for the really solid kill. Like game 2, of course, like you lose that game, like you're not getting an easy kill.
There it is. Sunflower wins 2 long grinds of attritional warfare, 1 economic warfare with a push. But we do have our finalist